Hey there everybody, this is Mrs. Bashman and we're going to show you how to print your linoleum block. So here I have my linoleum block that I have finished carving. I have my inking tray, my popsicle stick, and my brayer. I have some of the printmaking paper here, as well as a kitchen spoon that I'm going to use to press on my printmaking paper. And I have some wet and dry paper towels to help keep my area clean. You'll want to do this on some newspaper or scrap pieces of paper or a table surface that you don't mind getting messy. Don't do this on your mom's kitchen table and make a mess. You can see that the ink will wipe away from the surface, but you don't want to take the chance of it staining anything. So here I've taken my popsicle stick and I've put about a, like a pea-sized dollop, I guess, of ink onto my tray. And you take your brayer, you hold on to the tray because it's going to want to move, and you're going to roll it in one direction and then roll it in another. If you have too much ink on here, it'll create little wavelets. And right now I have too much ink because I'm creating these sticky little wavelets. So I'm spreading the ink out, thinning it up. And you'll be able to see there's ink on my brayer. See how it has these little peaks of ink on there? And there's a thin, even layer of ink on my tray. See how there's these tiny little sticky wavelets that you can kind of see. Don't go any more than that. Then you're going to roll over your block. Sorry about the squeakiness. Keeping your brayer level. Go at different angles. Has a border around the edge, so I gotta make sure I get my whole border covered. Switch spaces here. Now turn my phone on silent. I'm gonna go back and pick up a little more ink. Sorry about the squeakiness. I'm missing this one little spot right there on the starfish. You just eyeball it, see if there's any areas where you can really see the color of the linoleum. I don't see anything, so I think I'm pretty good. Lift that up so you can take a look. So you see how all the areas that I want to print black are now covered with a thin, even layer of the ink. So I'm going to take my block and I'm going to line it up so it's straight up and down in front of me. I'm going to take a piece of printmaking paper and make sure my printmaking paper is straight up and down in front of me. The printmaking paper should be larger than the block all the way around. And I'm going to kind of line it up right here beside my block, lean it over, drop it. Once you've dropped it, don't move it. Even if the paper's crooked, just let it be. Because if you move it, you're going to smear the ink. I'm going to take my fingers and start light pressure and then more firm to center that piece of paper on the block. Now I'm going to hold the paper onto the block with one hand while I use my fingers and my hand flat to rub over. See if I take that other hand away, you see how it scoots? Rub over the paper. Now I'm going to show you how you can use a spoon for this. This works really well with a wooden or plastic kitchen spoon. You'll use the rounded edge to kind of help press down. I like using my fingers. Some people like to use a spoon. It's up to you. Try them both. See which one you like. See, with my fingers, I feel like I can really press into these grooves. And you'll notice that I'm starting to see like a ghost of the starfish and the sand dollar show up in the paper. You see how the paper's like indenting and you can kind of see in there. It's pretty cool. Now I'm going to roll it up to test it. And you see how I've got these little splotchy areas that aren't quite printed? I can rub those areas down again and see if I can pick up a little more ink onto them. That's better. Pick this up. That side looks good. Notice I didn't pull the whole thing off yet. That side looks good. That looks good. Now I'm going to pull the whole thing off. And there is my test print. This is actually my second print that I've done off of this block. This was my initial test print. Let me roll it around this way so you can see them together. So you can see the first time I did this, I didn't have enough ink on my block, so it's a little bit lighter. This one's a little bit more even. So you're going to do your initial test print. If there's any areas that are not showing up, if like these lines aren't showing up or these areas that you want to have show up as white aren't there, you're going to clean your block off and then recarve those areas and print again. To clean your block off, you're going to take it to the sink and run it under water. Use your hand to gently brush off the ink. Make sure you rinse all of the ink down the sink and off of your hands, and then pat it dry with a paper towel. You really don't want to leave it to dry with the ink on it, because when you go to print it again, that dried ink will flake off and it'll give it a texture on your paper that doesn't look very pretty. So you always want to make sure you clean your block off when you're done. Same thing with your brayer and your tray. You're going to put them in the sink. Use your hands or a kitchen brush to clean them off, rinse them. Always make sure you rinse the brayer really well. Make sure you get any ink that's hiding in the pieces between the metal and the plastic here along the handles, and just dry them with a paper towel before you put them away. So you're going to do at least 3 test prints for me to look at, or 3 prints. You're going to do at least, 1 test print, make some changes, and you're going to do 3 final prints for me using the black ink that I gave you. Remember, you don't need a lot of it, just a little bit. And if you have any questions or you would like to see me, I am available every day from 12 to 1 on Zoom. The link is on our Google Classroom page. All right. Happy printing, everyone. Couple of tips that I thought of that I wanted to mention. One being, if you have very thin lines, like I do here in the sand dollar, that get ink inside of them that it's not coming out, what you can do is you can take a toothpick or something similar in shape and just use that to dig into those grooves, lift the ink out, wipe it dry on a paper towel, and you just use that to really pull the ink out of those crevices before you print. If you're finding that these little thin lines like this are not showing up as white like you want them to, like I've got these little itty bitty lines down there in the silver dollars. When your prints come out, it's going to take them like an hour to dry maybe. So you want to put them someplace where no pets or little siblings or anybody is going to accidentally touch them. Feel free to, tape them up on a vertical surface if that helps, pin them on your refrigerator, something, just to keep them out of the way until they are dry, because they're going to stay tacky for quite some time. Another thing that I forgot to mention, when you clean your linoleum block, make sure that you dry it before you put more ink on here. If it's wet, it's going to mix with the ink and it's going to make the ink the wrong consistency and it won't print correctly. So you really do want to make sure that your linoleum block is dry before you start to use it again. And don't soak your linoleum block in water. It'll start to break down the backing of your linoleum block, and then it'll crumble, and you don't want that to happen. So if I can think of anything else, I'll put it in the comments on our Google Classroom page. All right. Thanks, y'all.